It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
Survivor 46 is here, and so is On Fire, the only official Survivor podcast, and we have a twist this season. The winner of Survivor 45, Dee Valladares, will be joining us every week.
We're going behind the scenes of the biggest moments, the how and the why things happen, and the strategy and analysis you can only get from someone like me, a Survivor winner.
Listen to On Fire, the official Survivor podcast, wherever you get your podcast.
With threats to our nation waiting around every corner, adaptability is more important than ever. When conditions change without notice, quick strategic thinking is crucial. And with obstacles consistently impending, determination is essential in overcoming them. It's this willingness, decisiveness, and resilience that sets Marines apart. With our fighting spirit, we don't just fight battles, we win them. Marines are the constant our nation counts on to fight the unknown. And through adaptable problem solving, we do just that. Learn more at marines.com.
It was one of my highlights of 2022, watching live 3x3 basketball in the rain in Birmingham at the Commonwealth Games with my 5-year-old son, who's a massive Michael Jordan and LeBron James fan. It was topped off as the England men's team claimed the gold medal and the women a silver just a few days later. I'm John.
And I'm Michael. Basketball is the second most played sport amongst young people in this country. But away from the NBA, it doesn't get the coverage or recognition it deserves. And after having a British team at the 2012 Olympics in London, how far away are we from seeing Team GB up there again? Let's find out. This is Great British Bosses from Anything But Footy.
I'm Steve Bucknall, Head of Talent and Performance for Basketball England.
Firstly, Steve, a pleasure to meet you. And what a record, the first Englishman to compete in the NBA. That is a heck of an achievement.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to have great support coming from England as a young lad, and then getting the opportunity to go to America, which was really a dream come true. And then I worked my socks off, really, to get to that point where I could be recognized as a professional player and have an opportunity to play one of my boyhood heroes, Magic Johnson, with the Lakers. So I've been fortunate. It takes a little bit of luck and obviously a lot of hard work. So I'm happy I was able to get to that point.
I want to talk to you about your career in a moment, but let's talk about your role and what you do now. You said you're the head of talent and performance at Basketball England. What does that actually mean?
I'm still trying to figure it out, John, but it's a great title, but usually it's a performance director, similar type role. I oversee our talent pathway, which starts from about 11 years old with the Aspire program, leading all the way to national teams. And anything in between, our academy setup, our performance activities, anything to do with performance basketball, anything to do with nurturing kids to get to that level. And our job is really to nurture them and to give them the tools and support needed to get to that high level of the sport.
And it's something that you've always done since you stopped playing, because I think you were the founder of Lewisham Thunder as well.
Yes, London Thunder. I've always had a passion for giving back. I mean, coming from the neighborhood I came from and how I grew up, I knew it was important to give back. And as soon as I stopped playing, I had a plan where I wanted to put basketball back on the map, especially in my area where I grew up, where the famous club of Crystal Palace no longer existed. There's been a couple franchises after that, but when I stopped playing, there was no basketball in the area, John. I just couldn't believe it. So I made that one of my first endeavors, was to get basketball back on the map. So I surrounded myself with like-minded people who I played before, and they all grew up like me with kids and everything. And we started this little club in Lewisham, and it's just grown from strength to strength until we changed our name to London Thunder. We have our own venue. It's a converted warehouse. It's not much, but it's ours. And we've had that opportunity to build and grow over the last 8 years.
I mentioned in my intro that basketball is the second most played sport among young people. Why is it then such a struggle? Why was Crystal Palace not there? What's gone wrong in the last years since you learned to play the game and went to the NBA?
Just from my point of view, obviously resources is a big issue. Getting those resources to the right places, to the right people. Infrastructure, facilities is key. Unlike football, we can't really play outside, only in the summer times. Very difficult to play in the winter. And just basically a lot of timing. I mean, at one point we were on Sky TV, and I played for a year. We're on Sky TV. So we've had opportunities. We just haven't galvanized them and pushed them in the right direction. But as you say, a lot of young people are playing basketball. The sport is thriving at the lower levels. I think we just need support and more belief from our leaders that this sport can be a part of our society and can contribute in many different ways, not just on the playing field.
You mentioned missed opportunities. I assume London 2012 was a missed opportunity as well.
I would say that, not to be negative, but I would say that the legacy part of it was non-existent. I didn't think we capitalized on all the media and press and having some of these global stars over here. We never capitalized on that, and I've got my reasons why, but we just didn't do a good job. I think that was our boss, Stuart Kellett, was really, really focused on making sure we had a legacy plan to the 3-on-3, and we're implementing that right now. So we've learned from that mistake, and I think we have made some inroads into pushing the sport the way we want to push it forward.
You mentioned the 3x3, the Commonwealth Games. Could that be the starting block? That gold and silver medal success?
I hope so. Myself and my team and all of the people, the employees who worked in basketball in England, we worked extremely hard to get to that point where we could win medals at the Commonwealth Games with those great players. And we feel like we've shown what basketball can do. Basketball can be successful. Obviously, again, it's the resources and more importantly, as you know, John, it's the people. And I think we got it just right with basketball in England. We surrounded ourselves with a lot of like-minded people who really had a passion for the sport, who really wanted to drive the sport, and more importantly, would be around after the Commonwealth Games to see it through. I think that's the difference.
Let's talk about those Commonwealth Games. It says that you masterminded the success. How difficult was it for you to get the teams together and then get them in a place where they were winning those gold and silver medals?
I think the first thing for me, I had no clue about 3-on-3. As a professional player and a student of the 5-on-5 game, I always looked down at the 3-on-3 game. I didn't want to tell anybody that, but I was like, that's not basketball. But as I did the research, as my team looked into it more and more, we realized that this is kind of following the trend of society, isn't it? Fast games, quick games, games that are over quickly. And we knew that this was an opportunity. We also realized after doing our research that we were in a good position in terms of the makeup of our players, that we could be successful. A lot difficult to be successful in a 12-man team, a lot easier in a 5. And we felt we could find 5 players who compete with anybody. So the first thing was the research. The second thing was using my experience of performance. Is like, what would you want to go through yourself, Steve? If you had this opportunity, what would you want to do? And the first thing I would say is we need to surround ourselves with the best. And we did that. The Serbians, we went to Serbia and we worked with them. And they're the godfathers of 3-on-3. So we were able to work with some of the best in the business. And they taught us a lot of things about 3-on-3 that we wouldn't know. And the next thing was competition. And we provided our teams a lot of good competition in terms of European championships, in terms of going to tournaments in France, in terms of just really giving them that contact time around the 3-on-3 and putting them in the right environments. And of course, you couldn't do it without the players. So we had to select the players. And I think, the first thing before the players comes the coach. And I think we were very lucky to be able to get 2 of those coaches, Julius Joseph, an ex-player for GB, Steph Collins. again, her record speaks for herself. An international player, an excellent coach. So my job was, if I can get these two involved, the players will follow, and it worked that way. So it was a collaboration of everything. But I think just my experience with performance and playing at the highest level gave me insight into what these players would want the program to look like. And then we had to be honest with the players and tell them what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, which is never usually done in basketball. But we were very honest. This is what we have. This is the plan. If you want to be a part in this, we'd love to have you. If you don't, and we did that type of survey beforehand with over 100 players, John. Over 100 players we looked at. We had a long list, and we wanted to know who wanted to be involved, who could commit for a 2-year cycle, because that's what it was for us. It wasn't come in and play next week. It was, no, commit for 2 years. So we were able to find, I wouldn't say 99% of the players we wanted. Obviously, there were some big hitters that we tried to get and we couldn't for all sorts of reasons. And then, but at the end of the day, you want people who are passionate about it and want to play. And we found those.
And we've seen it in cricket, Steve, where you have the likes of Josh Butler, who is a 2020 specialist. Is that going to be the same for basketball moving forward? 3x3 is in the Olympics. There are medals to be won at a world level.
I believe so. I believe after canvassing all the sport, looking at other teams, top teams, playing with the Serbians, who are the best in the business, and the Serbian coach, again, player who's won untold titles, said to me, he goes, "You guys are a sleeping giant." He goes, "In 3-on-3, you guys have the makeup of the players, have those tools ready available to you to be successful. All you need is some support, some guidance, and obviously a program behind it." So I see this as a way for us to be, it's an easy win, isn't it, for us? We can be successful at 3-on-3. And I think we have proven that to the world.
The atmosphere at those matches was quite incredible. I sat in the rain. I think it was the only time it rained in Birmingham over the 10 days. And I was at the open air basketball, which was not the greatest at that moment. But my son and my wife and I absolutely were enthralled by the spectacle and just how fast the game was.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I can't say I looked at it from that perspective because I was really nervous, especially when it came down to the final games. But it was a spectacle. I mean, you saw the kids that were there. They really enjoyed it. People who didn't even know about basketball came up and said, "You know what, this is exciting. I can deal with this 10-minute game." You come in, you watch 10 minutes and then boom, you watch another team. And every team is different. But it's so fast and furious. And there's something happening at every second. So I think that enthralls players and fans to actually look at this thing as entertainment. And I think we're able to show that.
And we saw, you mentioned you were nervous. I mean, the men's final, England 17, Australia 16. And the women's final, England 13, Canada 14. I mean, they were tense matches.
Yeah, they were nail biters for me. I mean, I don't have much hair, but it was reducing very fast. And now I've got gray hair because of that. Because, when you put your time and your efforts into a project, that, and then you come to see it to fruition at the end. It was very nervous for me, very nervous for everybody in part of the team. We were just hoping that didn't translate to the players on the floor. That's what we were hoping. But again, we had two good coaches who were able to manage that, manage the expectations, manage the pressure on the day. And I think those players really did us justice. I mean, Miles Henson, who's from Birmingham, I mean, he must have felt tremendous pressure in that game, being a hometown lad, playing in front of his home crowd. I mean, I even told him, I said, "I don't know how you did it, but you held it together, and more importantly, you made the winning shot for the men's team." It was amazing. And even the silver medal from the women, no one understands that the semifinals was really a titanic battle between Australia and GB. I mean, those were the two best teams there. Those were the two best teams. And the fact that we were able to handle Australia the way we did, really to me was job done. Job done. Whatever happens now, you guys deserve it. You knocked off the best team. You played the best basketball I've ever seen the team play 3x3, and you did it at the right time. Let's be honest, they did it at the right time. So we were very happy with the end product, everything. But again, it showed to us that, you know what, we can win. We can win at the highest level. I mean, some of these teams have been playing 3-on-3 for years, having programs, playing all around the world. And we just put in a 2-year cycle and were able to compete with them. So it was very rewarding, and we did celebrate at the end of it all.
I should hope so.
For me, the pressure was there, not as for playing side, but as a performance director. You can just imagine you put everything into this. My brief was to win 2 medals. For 2 years, I've been hearing about it in every meet and everywhere I go. So, it was very rewarding to see that you put the plan together and it worked.
So you're Basketball England, Great British Basketball or British Basketball. How does the relationship work there? And we had this success at the Commonwealth Games. How do we then get it into the Olympic Games?
I think, we have the BBF, British Basketball Federation. That's a collaboration of the home nations, Scotland, Wales, and ourselves. I think in the past we've struggled with relationships and power struggles and dynamics of different people, but I can say honestly now we've moved forward from that. They've got a new chief executive, Chris Grant. He's changing things. I think he's a great addition to that organization and to our sport in general. So I think the future's bright. I think we are now sitting down at tables together, being very positive about the sport and basically putting all our skill sets together to make it work. So I feel galvanized, to be honest, that we can move forward. I think what we need now, it goes to another level, as you know how these things work, where we need resources now to back up our plans and ambitions. And I think that's what Chris Grant is out there doing as we speak, and other people of his ilk who run the program. They're out there saying we can do some big things in this sport. We just need the support and the belief from other governing bodies who kind of distribute funding.
And what about also getting the league games? You mentioned about London Thunder, London Lions are in European Cup action as well. All these matches that you need to kind of get that into people's consciousness as well, don't you? The public consciousness.
Yeah, I think marketing, having these games available for people to access on TV, on internet, is extremely important to drive the game forward. And I'm sure that people are working that right now. We need to get our sport in front of on the TV, right? We need to get our sport on the TV. We need to get our sport in the newspaper. We need to get our sport being talked about as something great for the kids and great for our country, that we can be successful in this arena, especially at the high end of the sport. So everybody's working towards that direction, I believe. There was stagnant for, I would say 5 years ago. It's very stagnant, power struggles everywhere, no funding, but things are slowly moving. It's like the Titanic, right? You want to turn it around. It's going to take a little bit of time. But right now, I think our trajectory is where it needs to be. We just need the people above me and above whoever else who have the funding, the purse strings to actually give us some of this cash. We can get things done.
So Paris 2024, we're unlikely to see a Team GB in 3x3, but maybe LA, maybe Brisbane?
I wouldn't say that. There are ways of getting into these tournaments. There's wild card opportunities if you go and win tournaments. There are ways of getting into the tournaments, even though we're a little bit late off the starting mark. So I've not given up hope. Definitely LA is on the cards, but to me, I think if we can get the right resources to the right people, and then we can enter some of these wild card tournaments, there's no reason why we couldn't qualify. I think the future's bright. In 5-on-5, we've not talked about that, but I do think it's bright in 5-on-5. Some of the young talent coming through, we need to provide them a provision. To me, in the next 5-6 years, we can bring some of that talent. Daniel Hildreth, his son is out there playing at Wake Forest. That's a huge school. We've got 2 players playing in the ACC at this moment. We've got players distributed all across the US who are going to say, what are you guys going to do for us? We're going to leave school soon. We're ready to go. We're ready to take this sport to the next level. So that's what my head is thinking about. How do we push this game forward? 3-on-3, the excellence in 3-on-3, and obviously providing a platform for these young, talented players who will be coming to our sport as professionals in the next 3 to 5 years.
And you mentioned a few names. Wouldn't it be great when I do my intro in 5 years' time when we catch up again, Steve? And my son is not Michael Jordan or LeBron James, but he's Miles Hessen or Henry McCullough or whoever.
They'll be there. There'll be some new names. This is the sport, you know that. There'll always be an unearthing of new talent that comes through and propels the sports. And as I said, there's a lot of players out there that some people don't know about are going through that journey right now, building that experience, building that knowledge of the sport. They're young, but over time, I think they will propel this sport to where we want it to be.
We're talking to Steve Bucknall, Head of Talent and Performance at Basketball England. This is Anything But Footy's great British bosses. You mentioned Crystal Palace, Tulse Hill. I think you went to school, Steve.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
How do you then get to the University of North Carolina, where I assume that they were still going, well, Michael Jordan came here?
Oh, yeah. That's all you heard about. Everybody is compared to Michael Jordan, especially if you're 6'6". So yeah, I went to Crystal Palace. I just loved the sport, John, to be honest. I didn't know where it could take me, what it could do. I played many different sports, finally picked up a basketball. And when I picked it up, I knew straight away, this is it. This is it for me. I was able to play for Crystal Palace. Roy Packham, a long-time coach, all-time great, who's produced probably 100 international players, saw me playing, took a liking to me in his own way, and kind of nurtured me for a year and then gave me the opportunity to go to America. At that point, I had to go back to my parents and say, I want to go to America. They were like, there's no way, there's no way you're leaving. I had to plead with my family and say, this is what I want to do. This is my life. And finally, they agreed to it under certain terms, as you can imagine when you're a young kid at my age. Went to high school. I was fortunate enough to find a very good high school, Governor's Academy, prep school, boarding school, excellent academics. The people looked after me there. I can't say anything bad about that place. It really gave me the support I needed. And I was lucky enough to be an All-American player there. So I played in a couple All-American games, being recognized as the top 20, 30 players in America. And obviously North Carolina is a big-time school. They came to a game, saw me play. The coach spoke to me, Coach Guthridge. He's in heaven right now. May he rest in peace, and along with Dean Smith. And they offered me a scholarship. And at the time, I was a little bit hesitant to take it because of the comparisons, not with me, but every 6'6" player that's gone after Michael Jordan straight away gets compared. I'm like, I'm no Michael Jordan, but, but coach said, we think you can help this program. We think you're a solid kid. We think you're a 4-year player. Come in and obviously I thought about it a lot. And I thought about the pedigree of the other players that have gone through the program, the success. And then I decided to go there. But it wasn't easy because it's a tough program. Everybody there was an All-American. I walked in, there's 13 All-Americans there. So I had to fight and scrap for every minute I got. But at the end of the day, I believed in Coach Smith and his staff. And that was really what was a turning point for me.
You mentioned Magic Johnson earlier as well with LA Lakers. You were there for the season. How good a player was he?
He's in the top 5. I mean, you can have discussions with everybody. You got to put him in the top 10. So, it could be top 5, top 10, doesn't matter. He's one of the all-time greats. And more importantly, I think Larry Bird at that time kind of changed the game, the way people perceived the game and the star power it could provide and the marketing, how they were able to market those two and push that NBA to that next level with, I believe it was David Stern, who was the commissioner at that time. He really did some good things around those two guys who came in the league at the same time, who had a rivalry in college, Michigan and Indiana. So it just kept going and just kept. But the thing about Magic Johnson and about all those players of that ilk, of that caliber, is they're very competitive. They don't like to lose, and they have a drive that I've never seen before. We used to have practice at 10 o'clock. I used to go at 9 thinking I was, a goody two-shoes, getting extra shots in. He was there at 7, they told me. It was unbelievable. I just couldn't believe it. And this was at when his game had plateaued and he was going down. He was there at 7. And so I used to try to get in there a little bit early, but I could never get in there earlier than him. He was always in there. working on his game, working on his craft. And he would always call me young fella, come and rebound. So that's why I didn't really like going, to end up rebounding for like 30, 40 minutes. And you couldn't say no, could you? So, I never got a workout, but it was a pleasure to watch him play. His vision was impeccable in terms of seeing the floor. Obviously at 6'8", 6'9", at 230, 240, he was a beast, wasn't he? So he changed the game. There's certain people around that he doesn't get much accolades as he should to me, but he changed the game, especially from a point guard position, where the point guards went from 6 foot to all of a sudden you got this 6'9" beast of a man with vision, flair, and athleticism playing the point. So I really respected him. I mean, I didn't play a lot, but I tell you something, I had the best seats in the house and I enjoyed them most of the time.
It sounds good. 92 caps for England, 22 for Great Britain, a bronze at the Commonwealth Games in 2006. That was your personal achievements. You played in Germany, Greece, Italy, France, and then back in the UK with Leicester Riders. Do you think, Steve, just as we kind of wrap this up a little bit, that we're in this country, we're so tunneled vision with football. It's why we started this podcast, but we're so focused with football that we don't really open our eyes and look at what's going on around the world. I mean, I'm amazed that Serbia are the best basketball country in the world. I would assume it would be USA because I've got my blinkered British eyes on.
Yeah, I think people forget about Europe. There's some great countries that have been delivering some excellent teams and players. We're focusing on football, I think, way too much. I think there's only a finite amount of players that can play football. That we need to have a broader perspective on sports in general, not just basketball, but sports in general. We need to look at all sports and offer that vision or opportunity for all types of athletes, not just the ones who play football. Because obviously the ones that play football, certain bills, certain thing, that's their little thing. What about the tall athletes that play basketball? What about the not so tall? What about people who pick up handball? I think that's the one good thing I would say about America. They're a lot more open to look at different sports, but for them, what's required is success, and it's probably what's holding our sport back a little bit is success. But you won't get success until you build something. You have to build something to get success. You just don't, start a new sport and get success. You have to put some resources. You have to put a program, a plan together. And I would just like people to support that and support other sports in general. Obviously, my thing is basketball, but I think there's a lot of people out there who play different sports. We don't get no exposure. We don't get funding. We don't get support. Why is that? We feel we could be successful if we were given the opportunity. So I just like us to have, as a society, not just to focus on, as you say, nothing but football. There's a lot more happening than football. It's only when you're in that environment that you realize that, like you said, and in Europe, they've got some of the top players. I mean, Luka Doncic, he's one of the top players in the world. He's from Slovenia. You know what I mean? So they're producing. That means they must have infrastructure. They must have good leagues. They must have people supporting their youngsters because he's able to do it. So I think we just need to, at the top, to me, just open our horizons and understand that, sport is good for everybody. Everybody can play a part in society by utilizing sport. So it doesn't just have to be football. That makes sense.
Last question then. What are you most proud of? The gold and silver that you masterminded for the Commonwealth Games last year, or that bronze in the Commonwealth Games personally in 2006?
It's a tough one. You got my player's hat on, and you got my performance hat on. It's a difficult one. I would say they both gave me satisfaction in different ways. Obviously, to see out my career with a bronze was great. Obviously, to be behind the scenes, doing a different thing, something that I never thought I would do, planning a whole program and team, and seeing that successful kind of gave me the belief that all those years I spent toiling on teams and working across Europe did pay dividends in the end for our country. Because I do agree that, the program that we put together was the right one for those players, and it did work.
Well, Steve, you've been an inspiration in your playing career and now in your coaching career, and we hope for much more to come. You've certainly inspired me in this conversation today. I'm going to go out and practice with my son when he gets home from school in the backyard with the net. But we really appreciate you talking to Anything But Footy and Great British Bosses.
No, thank you. It's a pleasure to get the word out there about basketball and the good things it can do for the youngsters and the olders, because, you know, we love watching it, don't we? We watching those athletes on the floor doing their thing. So thank you, John.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
With Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to... Has anyone seen the bride and groom?
Sorry, we're here. We were getting lucky in the limo and we lost track of time.
No, Lucky Land Casino, with cash prizes that add up quicker than a guest registry.
In that case, I pronounce you lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Daily bonuses are waiting. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.